Our guest today is author Annie O Sullivan. She wrote the book, Can You Hear Me Now? Today we're going to talk about some very interesting things that will be educational. Annie, I understand that you've been having trouble with your neck.
Oh, yes.
Please tell us what's going on with your neck.
For anybody who's read my book knows that the very first story that I tell is about how I got this neck injury. I had been beaten pretty badly by my parents. I was 13 or 14. And, of course, all these years later, I started having neck injuries. I didn't know that I had a problem with my neck until about 7 years ago. I was in a car accident. The next morning, you know, it's pretty typical. You get in a car accident, you go home, everything's fine, you get up. Well, I couldn't move the next day. So, of course, you go to the doctor, and the x-rays were so bad that when the doctor, you know, they put them up there, and I thought they put the wrong x-rays up there. I mean, even as a lay person, I knew that those x-rays looked really bad. So, you know, you sit and you wait, and the doctor comes in, and because I'm kind of mouthy, I started to say something to him, and he goes, that didn't happen yesterday. As it turns out, it was my neck, and it's pretty badly damaged. And it took quite a bit of physical therapy at that point. I found out I was no longer allowed to go to chiropractors because they were afraid of the bones shifting around, and nobody really knew what to do with it. It was there was a lot of damage, and at that point I didn't really understand. I just knew my neck was bad, and someday I was going to have to do something about it. And they ultimately had to, they inserted some sort of steroid into my neck because the pain just would not stop. And I had pain where if I turned my head, I was holding on to it because it was just any movement was just excruciating. So I went through this procedure, and it took care of the pain. And I happen to be one of those people, if I'm not in any pain, nothing's wrong. So I go about my life, and it was 3 years later, I took a fall at work. It was my own fault. I had these big high heels, and I was so cool. But I fell, and it wasn't that bad of a fall, but the pain started all over again. And I went to another doctor. I went to an orthopedic doctor, and he said, I can't help you. You need to see a specialist. And we started looking around for doctors that would see me, and we couldn't find anybody that would even take it. So I ended up going to the University Center at Salt Lake. They did nerve conduction tests, and the one thing that everybody agreed with was this was an old injury. It was a very old injury. Fortunately, I wasn't showing any signs of arthritis. So again, the doctors, we already got this team of people, and they all get together, and they said, the best thing for me to do is wait. Technology is on my side, and I should wait, because it's deteriorating so slowly. There was all this research being done with stem cells, and, technology is just at the speed of light today. So the longer I could wait to have anything done with this, ultimately, everyone was in agreement that ultimately I would have to have surgery. I would have to have something done. But they really thought that I should wait as long as I could. So I decided to wait, and one of the things they said was I needed to be evaluated once a year because I had quite a bit of pain, which is what keeps driving me back to the doctor. It's not because I feel like I'm incapacitated. I just have this excruciating pain. It comes down across through here, and it would come down my shoulder. It would keep me awake. It was kind of debilitating, even to the point where I would be at work and people would know. I mean, they could just tell I was in a lot of pain. I had a lot of pain in my shoulder. They gave me nortriptyline. When I was going through really serious therapy, counseling, they had tried various antidepressants, and one of the things that they had given me was nortriptyline. I was taking 300 milligrams, and I was in tears because I couldn't, if it was stupid, I was in my kitchen and I couldn't double a fettuccine recipe, which is just pasta, right? Pasta, more pasta. I couldn't do it. And so I ended up calling my doctor, and it was a very bad thing for me to be on. What they gave me was a very low dose, 25 milligrams, and it was like a miracle drug. It's not a narcotic. I mean, it was just very low dose. And within 24 hours, all this pain gone, just gone. I thought it was great. And I was on 25 milligrams a day for quite a while. And they gave me Flexeril, muscle relaxers. For occasionally this would get tight and it would hurt, but that was pretty much it. And physical therapy once a year.
Let's step forward into what you have to have done today. Where are you today, and what are they going to do, and why?
Today, I'm going to have, in 2 weeks, I'm going to have 3 cadaver bones in the front, and it actually involves 5 bones, 5 discs. They're going to replace 3 of them. The other 2, actually 3, they're going to clean the bone up because they're kind of disintegrated and there's a lot of bone spur and just disorganized growth, basically. They're going to clean that up. They're going to replace 3 of them and have a titanium plate, and they'll all be screwed in there, and which is it just almost feels like a miracle to me that that's all they're going to do, because two weeks ago they were going to I was going to have a scar from here to here. They were going to go in and replace 5 discs with 5 cadaver bones. Then they were going to, and this is literally what the doctor said to me, we're going to flip it around and insert a rod in the back. And I would lose most of my movement from here up. I would be like this. And, I'm not I don't spend a lot of time sitting on the sofa. Well, of course, they're not doing that now. They're going to do the lesser version. But the other side of that is they don't know how long that deterioration has actually been. The discs are blown into my spinal cord, and which your spinal cord is kind of sheathed in this, I don't know what it's called, but it's like this sticky stuff. So literally it's supposed to be coming up like this, and it's nothing touches. Mine are all collapsed. They look like this on the MRI. So what they have to do is they have to tease those discs off of your spinal cord, and that occurred for me on both sides in half a dozen places or more. So when I'm in surgery, they're going to have to get that off. The risk is that because it's sticky, you may have some trouble detaching, and it could spring a leak. And if that happens, they're going to have to put a drain in. As long as that happens while it's in surgery, it's okay because they'll know. There's obviously there's risk with any surgery. This is pretty scary stuff, actually. And I've actually ended up, I went back and talked to a therapist again because I discovered that I was angry all over again. I thought that I was past all that. I spend a lot of time talking about this stuff. The reality of it is, for me, as long as I think, well, I'm good. I wrote a book and I talk to people all the time, and I do radio and TV, and I'm fine. But this just hit me so hard because it's, I've been known to say this I say it all the time, is, you just shouldn't beat your child. You could be giving them a beating that'll last them for the rest of their life. This happened to me over, almost 50 years ago. That beating was almost 50 years ago. I'm paying for it today.
Annie, what kind of a beating would cause that injury?
I don't remember what I was being beaten for, which is the saddest thing, is you get all this punishment and you don't even know why. But my dad was beating me. I mean, he was beating me. Yeah, and you have to understand, my dad was in a wheelchair, and a lot of people are like, you know, the guy's in a wheelchair, how bad could it be? But you have to understand that from birth, we've been trained. You come in, he calls you, you come. And if we didn't come, my mom would just drag us over to him anyway. But he got a hold of me. He'd hold on to you with one arm, and he'd be beating you with the other. And from years and years of being in a wheelchair and being on crutches, I mean, he had some big arms. He was strong. And he was just beating on me. And at some point, I was laid out on the ground, I was flat on my face, and he was kicking me. And he got frustrated because I wouldn't get up. I really just thought he was going to kill me. I thought that was that. That was my day. Today I'm going to die, and I believed it. But some part of me just wasn't going to help him do that. And so I just laid there. And he got frustrated, and he started screaming, and he was kicking me. And he was trying to run me over with his wheelchair. And I couldn't feel it anymore. I couldn't even feel what he was doing to me anymore. And I don't know where my mother had been while all this was going on, but she came out of the other room, and she was screaming. And I thought she was going to help me. And but what she was screaming when I could hear her was, "You get up. You get up right now." And she ran over. You know, I had that blinding, innocent moment of, my mother's going to come and get me. And she started kicking me. And calling me names, and she started jumping up and down on me. And she damaged my neck then. And she didn't help at all. I guess I would like to think that I'm past that pain, but clearly I'm not. I don't think that you never stop wanting your mother to come and help you. You know, I can't call my mother and say, my mother doesn't even know I'm having this surgery. I haven't talked to her for a year, and the truth is, she doesn't. I don't think she'd care. Sorry.
It's okay. What would you say to these parents that imagine that children are resilient and they can do anything they want to and it'll be okay? Obviously, that's not the truth. But so many parents believe that children are resilient, that you can slam them against the wall or do anything and it's okay.
It's not okay. You know what? You wouldn't think about putting your kid out on a bike today without a helmet. Right. They don't play sports without a helmet. You know, those same parents might be taking your kid in and throwing them around and crashing them into walls. I read an article about, sports people get some form of, I think it's multiple sclerosis. I might have it wrong, but it causes brain lesions that cause them to have problems that mimic, I guess, multiple sclerosis, or I'm not sure I'm doing that right, but you know what I mean. There's
problems created from it.
Physical things, and if that can happen to a grown person, who's wearing protective equipment.
Right.
What do you think is happening to a kid that, is beaten within an inch of their life, that you take a fist to, that you outweigh by 3 times? You got a little body there that's maybe 50 pounds, and you probably weigh 150, 200 as a grown man. 100 and, my mother was tall. My mother probably weighed at least 150 pounds. And what do you think happens when you slam your fist into them, or you kick them, or you push them downstairs, or something happens? I've got scars. I've got cigarette burns on my body where they get mad. My mother got so frustrated with me. I didn't know what the answer was. She was angry, and I didn't have the answer, and she got so mad at me. She took her cigarette and she just ground it out on my forehead. And I have that scar. Fortunately I got old and there's a wrinkle there now that kind of covers it up. But the fact is, I've worn bangs most of my life because I didn't want people to see that. I didn't want people to know. It was my shame. Why was it my shame that my mother did that? For years, that was my shame. I think I'm going to start crying. I think, man.
Why shouldn't you? You're obviously in physical pain for a beating that you were given for absolutely no reason. And why shouldn't you feel what you feel? You're entitled to all of the feelings of anger and frustration.
And I know that. I do know that. I think that it just catches me. It just catches me because I think I'm past it. You get therapy and you get more therapy, and
then you get yourself into a position where you're in pain and have to have a neck operation, and you're angry about it, and that's normal.
I got mad.
Yes.
I did. I got wildly mad, and I didn't expect that. That was the problem. I didn't expect it. I didn't see it coming. I just, all of a sudden, was so angry I didn't know what to do with it. And I went back to therapy. Fortunately, not for months and months this time. I had about 3 hours of counseling and worked it out. I will always be mad. It's really what I've come to. It's always going to make me angry. It's a matter of, how I deal with that. I just want to say kids like me, and I'm not a kid, but kids like me, we just have to accept so much. You just have to accept this is the way it is. I'm not going to get any justice. I'm not going to call, and my mother's not going to apologize for what happened. I have to just find ways to move forward. The counselor that I was seeing actually went online and looked in my book. To her credit, it was way easier than spending 6 sessions just trying to get through my story. But she just had the most wonderful metaphor for the whole thing, because she said they spent all those years, years and years. For 2 years I was on disability. And all I did was therapy and try to put my life back together. And I was in group, I was in counseling, I was in some form of counseling every single day for 2 years. I ultimately was in counseling for a total of 10 years.
You said you were in counseling for ultimately 10 years, but what you didn't say is how many years you were violently treated badly by your parents in a violent household. How many years was that?
Until I was 17.
That what we have mentioned so far is a drop in the bucket compared
That was
to
one
what
day.
happened. Yes.
One day. That was just one day in my life. Right?
And that was your whole lifestyle, wasn't it?
Yeah, that wasn't anything special. The only thing that was special about that day was the fact that that I was willing to just lay there, and I got so numb. I had never done that before. It's almost like I remember that more than how it felt to be beat. I mean, I already knew how it felt to be beat. But that feeling of just get it over with. I wasn't afraid to die. 14 years old, 13 years old. I'm not sure if I was 13 or 14. But what a tragedy. I have children. Could you imagine your own child? I mean, see, that's the kind of things I say. Like, can you imagine what it feels like to be 13 and think that, it's okay to die? It's better to die and to feel calm about it. There's a part of me that's managed to remove myself enough to find that just shocking that I even thought that. And, but it's the truth. They're just going to beat me until I die. They would tell me on a daily basis that I was responsible for every miserable thing that happened in that house. It was my fault that they got married and had an unhappy marriage. And because, my parents got pregnant before they got married, and that was my fault because I was in that back seat, right? Making those decisions. I just, I can't fathom what it would feel like to do that to your child. I mean, I have children, and, I made a lot of mistakes, but, I never inflicted anything like that. How could you do that to somebody that you supposedly love?
Pretty crazy.
And my dad would always tell me how much he loved me. Yeah. It's shocking, isn't it? He would always say, Daddy loves you. It hurts me to do these things to you. I hate it when you make me do this.
You made him do it. You
Yeah.
grabbed his arm and beat yourself with it.
That's right. Yeah. It's kind of surreal. I haven't thought about this for a while, but my dad had he lost his leg in an explosion when I was 12, and so one was locked at the hip, and that's why he was in the wheelchair. When he was around the house, he was in the wheelchair. When he'd go out in public, he had a leg that went below the knee. He'd had a prosthesis he'd put on, but he would take that leg off and beat you with it. So now you're not getting kicked. It's this surreal kind of a memory, but he would be beating you with this leg. While he's sitting in the chair, he's beating you with this leg, and he's strong enough to do it with one arm. And I guess he was sorry he did that too, because we made him do that.
You're pretty powerful.
Yeah, I am.
It's amazing how a child can be blamed for an adult's behavior. How does that work?
Well, I don't know.
You'll try to figure it out.
Yeah. My kids were pretty quick to tell me when it was my fault. So I guess that just means, they're okay. My kids will tell me that they don't understand me a lot. It's a little better now that they're older, but I heard that from them a lot. They just couldn't understand why I would think the way I would think, or why I would do things that I would do. And sometimes I would struggle with discipline because I knew they needed it,
Right.
But I didn't always know what to do. I took parenting classes, and I was always real quick to put them through some sort of counseling if they didn't know what to do. The truth is, I thank God they don't understand me, because that would mean something awful had happened to them. And,
You had siblings that were also beaten.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a way of life.
Yeah, I had brothers. We never stuck up for each other. It was pretty much every man for himself in that house. We never talked about it. Nobody ever talked about what was happening to me versus what was happening to you. It It was just reactionary. We just reacted to what was in front of us. In that moment, that's what we lived. So, it's Monday. We come home from school. We got cows and chickens and we got animals we got to take care of. And we're going to go do that. And then we come in the house and so today the rule is when I come home from school, I'm supposed to go wash dishes. Well, yesterday the rule was you get your butt out there and so not that nice words either, but you get your butt out there and you go milk that cow. You didn't milk it right this morning and you get slapped around a little bit for that. Well, you wouldn't even argue that yesterday you said I was supposed to do the dishes when I come home. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, it's a different rule. Every day the rules were different, which they would be, my dad especially, he'd be telling you, be yelling at you about, what you're supposed to be doing. And why didn't you do it? Well, you could not. I mean, it was certain death if you contradicted anything he said. So he's looking for an answer. Why didn't you wash the dishes when you get home? Oh, I don't have an answer. Because you don't dare say, yesterday you said, when you come home you wash the dishes. Because, I don't know, because we lived in a crazy house. I don't know what went on in his head. But I do know that those were all excuses for him to molest me later. Because if I was getting a beating, he was visiting my room later. Or taking me to one of his friends. Or, it was just this long, endless list of things that he would, do. But it was always my fault because I got in trouble and I did something wrong and I didn't have an answer. And it was an impossible situation. The thing is that we didn't know any better. We honestly thought that everybody lived like that. You didn't question it because it had been made clear. You don't go out of the house. You don't talk about things that went on in our house. You don't talk about that anywhere. And as a matter of fact, I got beat so bad I couldn't go to school for a week. Because a school counselor has called the house and said, I was 15. I hadn't had my driver's license yet. So I was 15. And the school counselor called because he knew there was something wrong with me.